welcome to Tech in a Sec. I'm your host, Jess, and I am going to be walking you through how to create a quiz in Google Forms. And one of the reasons why you want to create a quiz in Google Forms is it can really help you streamline your grading process and give you data back fast from your students. So to start off with our Google Forms creation, you're going to want to go into your Google Drive. This is the first option. So I'm going to go open up my Google Drive, and I'm going to click on the New button. If you click on this New button, you'll notice that a bunch of different things pop up. I'm going to hover over the More button, and under there you're going to see that purple Google Forms, which is what you want to get into. As I'm hovering over this, there's the option of just a blank form, or you can get from a template. I'm going to go from a template because that's going to put us into the quizzes really quickly. So as I click this, you'll notice it'll pop up. And if you're signed into your Mesquite account, it will say Mesquite ISD and give you some examples of other ones we have in our district, or just the general ones. And there are a bunch of different templates that there for you to explore on here. But where we're going to kind of focus today is actually just building a quiz. And so we're going to want to start with a blank quiz. I would highly recommend exploring their exit tickets, assessments, and worksheets just to kind of get a feel for some different options that you have, but we're going to start with a blank quiz. If you don't want to go through Google Drives to get to Google Forms, you can also, in your browser, I just type in Google Forms, and it's going to take you into this Google Forms right here. I'm going to click on it. It'll say go to Forms. I'm going to click on it again, and then it'll bring you into the same thing. At the top, it's just going to show you just a few options. You can always hit those three dots, and it's going to show you more of the Google Forms options. So today, again, we are working with a blank quiz. So when you click on that blank quiz, it's going to pop you up with just a brand new template to start the quiz. So the first thing I like to do is go up to the top and title my quiz. And so I'm going to title it with, I use Google Forms a lot with my warm-ups and giving my kids a warm-up to start the day. And then I could kind of look at the data right away and adjust my instruction based on that. So I'm going to just call this warm-up number 1. So in my blank quiz section, I'm going to type warm-up number 1 to title it again. And now I can give it a form description. So maybe this warm-up is over integers. I taught 6th grade math. So warm-up number 1, integers. And now we can just start typing in our questions. It automatically pops you up with a multiple choice question. So maybe I want to do 5 plus -6. That's my question. Then I can just click and type in different options that I want to give them as answer choices. 1, negative, and maybe -1. Whoops. Maybe they messed up and they did 11, or maybe they did -11. So these are all of my answer choices for my students. Now, the cool thing about Google Forms and using the quiz feature on them is that you can add in that answer key. So I'm going to hover over this answer key here and click on it. And now you're going to be able to actually click on it. So 5 plus -6 would give you -1. So I'm going to click on that. And that will tell my Google form to grade this first question as -1 as the correct answer. Now, if you notice right here, there's a point section. I'm going to want to assign a point value to this. So maybe it's going to be worth 1 point. Maybe you're going to weight your points differently, just depending on what you want. So make sure you add in a point section. And then I can also give answer feedback. So if I click on add answer feedback, I could give feedback for an incorrect answer. I could even link them to maybe another video that I've made on that concept so that they can rewatch the video and relearn the topic. Or maybe I have a link to a practice worksheet that they could do. And then I could give correct answers feedback. I always like to give a little good job or maybe a little cute video or something for a correct answer. I'm going to go ahead and save that. So it's going to give them the feedback good job if they get the answer correct. If I want to go back and realize I make a mistake or anything like that, I can always click the edit question and go back into this question section. So now you're ready. You've made your first question. You can add more questions by clicking on this plus button right here. You can also just add an image or add a video into your warm-up or into your Google quiz as you get going. I wanted to show you that as we get adding questions, you can add different types of questions. They don't just have to be multiple choice. One that I really like to use is a short answer. And the reason I like the short answer is maybe I wanted them to do -6 times -6. And I wanted to see what they were able to do without a multiple choice. So I'm doing this as a short answer. Google Forms has really updated and letting you actually add in an answer key for those short answers. Now with math, it's a little bit easier because there's usually just one right answer. So there's 36 and they could only type it in one way. Just be a little careful because if it's typed in, maybe they put a space 36 and a space, they're not going to get the correct answer if I just put it in as 36. So just be a little bit aware of that. And again, I wanted it to be 1 point. I can go back to the edit question. And so you see here, I've got 2 questions in my quiz. I've got an answer key for this one, and I've got an answer key for this question. One thing, just a side note, I do like to click this required button to make sure my students have to answer each of these questions. Because if you don't hit that required button, sometimes my students would skip questions they don't want to answer, or they would just forget and not add in a question or add an answer to their question. So now that we've started creating our quiz and we have it, we're going to say we have a 2-question quiz. Now we want to get set up to send it out to our students. So the first thing I always do is I hit the little gear button, the settings button, and I want to make sure to collect my email addresses so that I know who each student was. I usually required it to 1 user, and I usually limited it to 1 response if I didn't want my students to go back in and try it over and over and over again. You can have the option to edit it after a response. If the kids turn it in, they see that they got a wrong answer, they could go back and edit it. It just depends on what you as the teacher want. So that was the general section. Hop over to the quizzes tab, and you'll notice that it's already clicked on to make a quiz, and you have options. You could immediately tell them what their grade is on the quiz, or you could tell them later after you've reviewed their answers. It's up to you. When you immediately release their grade, you can say, oh, I want them to see the questions they missed, or maybe you want to see them to see the questions they missed, but you don't want them to see the correct answer, and you don't want them to see the point values yet, depending on what you want. So now that I've saved everything that I wanted to, and I have it set up to send out, to send it to my students, there's this nice box that says send. When I click on the send button, I could just email it to a student. Let's say a kid was gone one day and you just want to email them the quiz so they could take it at home or during study hall on their own time. That is an option for you. What I usually did is I scrolled over to this link button and I would copy and paste this link. So I'm going to copy this link and I would send it out to my students using Google Classroom just because that was the easiest way for me to send it out to students. You could make this into a QR code if that's easier for your littles, whatever you need to send it to your students. As you get going with Google Forms, there's lots of fun ways to mix it up and make it more exciting, like changing the color of it or changing the types of answers and even adding images and videos for your students. Ask me a question below if you have more questions or you want to know more about creating a quiz in Google Forms. Thanks for hanging in there with me, guys. See you later.